Going into Forbidden Fruits, I thought I knew exactly what I was getting into. I mean, the trailer sets it up like a Heathers meets Mean Girls meets The Craft, and that tone, that energy, that kind of stylized chaos wrapped inside a horror comedy, that's the expectation you walk in with. And I'll be honest, I walked in thinking I was about to have that very specific kind of experience. And that's not what this movie is, because pretty quickly it pivots into something heavier, something more uncomfortable, something that feels a lot more interested in what's underneath those kinds of stories than actually being one of them. And that gap between expectation and reality, that's the whole experience. One of the first things that stood out is how clearly this comes from a play. I mean, specifically Lily Houghton's "Of the woman came the beginning of sin, and through her we all die." And you feel that immediately. The dialogue drives everything. The scenes feel contained. It's less about movement and spectacle and more about how these characters talk to each other and how they position themselves in conversations and how control shows up in small moments. The setup is simple. Three girls working at a retail store called Free Eden pull a girl in from a pretzel shop into their orbit. They give her a makeover, they reshape how she presents herself, and they bring her into the group. You've seen it before, but instead of building into something fast or chaotic, this movie slows down and starts asking what that transformation actually costs. What does it mean to belong to something like this? And what happens when that belonging starts to feel conditional? If you're walking into this for witches, covens, hexes, that's there, but this isn't really about that. It's about control. It's about female toxicity. It's about empowerment turning into something else. It's about sisterhood becoming a hierarchy, and the way it plays out feels uncomfortably real because it's not exaggerated. It's not trying to make everyone the villain. It's showing how these dynamics build slowly, where belonging starts to feel like something you have to maintain. You're part of something, but you know you can lose it. And once that happens, everything shifts. That tension is where the movie works best. Underneath all of that, there's a very clear religious thread running through the entire film. Eve, temptation, the idea that women are the beginning of sin, the idea they're dangerous, and the movie doesn't push away from that. It leans into it. It plays with the idea of what happens when that label isn't rejected, but embraced. And by the time you get to it at the end, it's not subtle about it at all. There's a moment where the main character is literally wearing the title of the original play on her shirt. Of the women came the beginning of sin, and through her all we die. That's the movie, telling you exactly what it's about the entire time. And I actually respect that. But here's where it didn't fully land for me. For the most of the runtime, that feels controlled. It feels grounded. It feels focused on what it's trying to say. And then it shifts. The horror elements ramp up. The energy changes. And there's an escalator sequence that goes fully into camp. And look, on its own, that scene is wild. It's memorable. It's probably the most horror moment in the entire movie. But it doesn't feel like it belongs in the same film because everything leading up to that is building something more grounded, more character-driven, more intentional. And then it pivots into something bigger, more cinematic, more traditionally cinematic. And that's where it started to feel like it was betraying its own message. Not completely, but enough that I felt the disconnect. One thing that never wavers is Victoria Pedretti. She's operating on a completely different level here. There's unpredictability in her performance, but also control. She feels locked into the tone even when the movie itself starts shifting around her. She's the anchor, and honestly, she's a big reason the movie works as well as it does. This isn't going to land the same way for everyone. If you walk in expecting something closer to The Craft or Jennifer's Body, you might feel that disconnect. I did, but at the same time, I can already see this finding its audience because the themes are there. The perspective is there. And for the right group of people, especially younger audience navigating identity, belonging, and pressure to conform, this is going to hit. It just might take time. I respected what Forbidden Fruits was doing more than I connected with. There's a lot here that I appreciate, especially what it's trying to explore, but that tonal shift near the end kept it from fully landing for me. And at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if this becomes a generational cult classic. Not because it fits neatly into expectations, but because it challenges them. Appreciate you going on this film journey with me, and as always, be real.
I know yesterday was whack, but it's really not my fault because I Googled it and Mercury was in retrograde. So there you go.